The moment you stay silent, cruelty decides. It has permission. Maya Brooks heard the words in her own mind as the dining room of the ivory room fell strangely quiet. Near the entrance, an elderly woman stood beneath the crystal lights in a simple gray coat, clutching a worn handbag, while Brenda Collins, the restaurant manager, stared at her with open contempt. The woman had entered alone, her silver hair damp from the cold Atlanta rain, and asked politely for a table. Brenda looked her up and down as if kindness were reserved for people wearing designer clothes. "This is a private dining room," Brenda said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "You need to leave." Several people glanced over their wine glasses. No one spoke. Maya froze beside a table, still holding a tray of untouched desserts. Inside her apron pocket was a hospital notice, reminding her that Jordan's next cardiac appointment required a payment she did not have. She needed this job. She needed every shift, every tip, every dollar Brenda could take away with a single decision. The older woman quietly explained that she had a reservation, but Brenda refused to check. Instead, she accused her of wandering in to ask wealthy guests for money. A few diners looked uncomfortable, yet they turned away. Maya's chest tightened. Years earlier, she had watched strangers ignore her own mother during the worst moment of her life. She had promised herself she would never become one of those people. Brenda reached for the woman's handbag and ordered security to escort her outside. Maya set down her tray. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. "Please let go of her bag." Every head turned. Brenda's expression hardened. "Return to your station." Maya stepped closer. "She said she has a reservation. We should at least confirm it." Brenda moved beside her and lowered her voice. "Walk away, Maya, or you are finished here." Maya felt the hospital notice against her pocket. She imagined Jordan waiting at home, pretending not to worry. Then she saw the elderly woman's embarrassed eyes and made her choice. No one deserves to be humiliated because of how they look. Silence swallowed the room. Brenda removed Maya's name tag and placed it on the table. "Then, you can leave with her." Maya swallowed the fear rising in her throat, helped the woman into her coat, and led her toward the door. Outside, rain swept across the sidewalk in silver sheets. Maya offered the stranger her only umbrella. Behind them, no one noticed a black luxury sedan stop at the curb, or the driver staring in disbelief at the woman Maya had just defended. The driver stepped out of the black sedan, but the elderly woman gave him a quiet look that stopped him from calling her name. Maya noticed nothing. She was too busy holding the umbrella over the stranger, while rain soaked through the shoulders of her own uniform. "You should not have lost your job because of me," the woman said softly. Maya forced a small smile. "I lost it because I refused to pretend that what happened was acceptable." She guided the woman beneath the awning of a closed bookstore, then checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Jordan. Her stomach tightened. When she called him back, his voice sounded weaker than usual. He insisted he was fine, but Maya knew her brother too well. She promised she would be home soon, and ended the call before he could hear the fear in her breathing. The woman studied her carefully. "Someone is waiting for you." "My younger brother." Maya hesitated. "He has a heart condition. A rideshare would cost more than she could afford, and the nearest bus stop was almost half a mile away. Still, she could not leave an elderly woman alone in the storm." Maya invited her home until the rain slowed. The driver remained several yards behind them, following at a distance as they boarded the bus. 40 minutes later, Maya unlocked the door to a narrow apartment on Atlanta's south side. Jordan was sitting on the couch beneath a faded blanket, pretending to finish his homework. His smile disappeared when he saw her empty name tag. Maya said nothing. She helped the woman remove her wet coat, warmed a pot of soup, and divided it into 3 bowls, even though there was barely enough for 2. The stranger noticed the overdue notices stacked beside the microwave and the hospital envelope tucked beneath them. "Why are you helping me when you clearly need help yourself?" she asked. Maya looked toward Jordan, who was quietly trying to hide his discomfort. "Because kindness stops being kindness when it has a price." For the first time that evening, the woman's eyes filled with emotion. She introduced herself only as Eleanor. After Jordan fell asleep, Eleanor stepped into the hallway and called the driver. "Tell Ethan I am safe," she whispered, "and tell him I finally found someone who did not see a burden, a name, or a bank account. She only saw a person." Across the city, inside a glass tower bearing the Whitmore name, Ethan Whitmore stared at the message on his phone. Then he reached for his coat. By the time Ethan Whitmore reached Maya's apartment building, the rain had weakened to a cold mist. His black sedan looked out of place beside the aging brick walls and narrow parking lot. Ethan stepped out in a tailored charcoal coat, followed by the driver who had watched Maya escort Eleanor home. He climbed the stairs quickly, but when Maya opened the door, the concern on his face turned into suspicion. Eleanor stood behind her wearing borrowed slippers, while Jordan rested on the couch beneath a blanket. Ethan's eyes moved across the unpaid bills, the nearly empty kitchen, and Maya's damp restaurant uniform. "Mother, are you all right?" he asked. Eleanor nodded. "I am because of Maya." Ethan looked at Maya again. Years of false friendships had taught him to distrust convenient acts of kindness. He reached into his coat, removed a checkbook, and wrote an amount large enough to erase every bill in the room. "For your trouble," he said, holding it toward her. Maya stared at the check, then at him. "You think I brought her here for money?" "I think people usually expect something." Maya took the check, tore it cleanly in half, and placed both pieces in his hand. "Then you have spent too much time around the wrong people." Ethan froze. No one spoke to him that way. Eleanor hid a faint smile, but before she could intervene, Jordan tried to stand. His face lost color. He reached for the couch, missed, and sank to his knees. Maya rushed to him. "Jordan, look at me." His breathing became shallow. Ethan immediately called his private medical team and gave the address. Maya tried to protest, but Eleanor held her hand. Within minutes, emergency personnel arrived and prepared Jordan for transport. Ethan arranged for a medical helicopter because traffic to the hospital was heavy after the storm. Maya climbed in beside her brother, still wearing wet shoes and a stained uniform. Ethan followed without asking permission. At the hospital, doctors took Jordan behind secured doors, while Maya stood in the hallway fighting tears. Ethan kept several feet away, suddenly ashamed of the check in his pocket. An hour later, a cardiologist explained that Jordan needed additional testing and possibly surgery. Maya asked about the cost before she asked anything else. Ethan quietly told the billing office to charge him, but Maya overheard. "I will pay you back," she said. "Every dollar." Ethan wanted to argue, yet something in her voice stopped him. As Maya sat beside Jordan's room, Ethan received a message from his legal department. The Brooks family name had appeared in an archived case involving a fatal highway accident 14 years earlier. The company responsible had once belonged to Whitmore Industries. Ethan opened the file, read the first page, and felt the blood drain from his face. His family had known the truth all along. Ethan closed the file before Maya could see his expression. Across the hospital hallway, she sat beside Jordan's room, with both hands wrapped around a paper cup of untouched coffee. She looked exhausted, but she refused to leave her brother's side. Ethan had seen fear before in boardrooms and courtrooms, yet Maya's fear was different. It carried no selfishness. Every thought she had was for someone else. He stepped into an empty consultation room and called Daniel Price, Whitmore Industries' chief legal officer. "I need every record connected to the Brooks accident," Ethan said. Daniel hesitated. That case was settled years ago. Then why was the internal report sealed? Silence answered him. Ethan's voice hardened. Send me everything. When he returned to the hallway, Eleanor was watching him. She had always known when her son was hiding something. What did you find? She asked quietly. Ethan glanced toward Maya. Something that could destroy her trust before I have earned any of it. Eleanor did not let him escape. Truth does not become kinder because you delay it. Before Ethan could respond, the cardiologist returned with better news. Jordan was stable, but he would need close monitoring and a specialist within the next few weeks. Relief passed over Maya's face, followed immediately by worry when the doctor mentioned future costs. Ethan offered to arrange everything. Maya shook her head. I said I will repay you. This is not a loan. Then I cannot accept it. Eleanor stepped between them. She did not offer charity. Instead, she offered Maya work. Eleanor explained that she needed a personal assistant to help with appointments, transportation, and household scheduling. The position included a salary, health insurance, and flexible hours so Maya could care for Jordan. Maya studied her carefully. Is this because I helped you? It is because I trust you, Eleanor replied. That is rarer than kindness. Maya agreed only after insisting on a written contract and a proper interview. 2 days later, she arrived at the Whitmore estate, wearing a simple navy dress and carrying a borrowed briefcase. The mansion stood behind iron gates on several acres outside Atlanta, larger than any place Maya had ever entered. She refused to show intimidation. Inside, she met Vanessa Reed, Ethan's elegant fiancée, whose smile never reached her eyes. Vanessa looked at Maya's shoes, then at the modest purse in her hand. So you were the waitress Eleanor rescued, she said. Maya held her gaze. No, I am the woman she hired. Vanessa's smile tightened. Later that afternoon, while Ethan reviewed the sealed accident records in his office, Vanessa entered without knocking and noticed the Brooks name on his screen. She said nothing. That evening, she called a private investigator and gave him one instruction. Find out exactly what the Whitmore family did to Maya Brooks. Maya's first week at the Whitmore estate taught her something important. Wealth could make a house beautiful, but it could not make the people inside it kind. Eleanor treated her with warmth, asked about Jordan every morning, and respected every boundary Maya set. Vanessa did the opposite. She corrected the way Maya arranged flowers, criticized the way she spoke, and found small reasons to remind her that she did not belong. Maya endured it because the job gave Jordan access to better medical care, but she refused to lower her eyes. On Friday evening, Vanessa hosted a charity dinner at the estate for business leaders, politicians, and wealthy donors. Maya had been hired to help Eleanor manage her schedule, yet Vanessa handed her a tray and told her to serve drinks. The staff is short tonight, Vanessa said with a polished smile. Maya understood the insult, but she took the tray without argument. Across the room, Ethan noticed. He started toward her, but Eleanor quietly stopped him. Let her choose how she handles it, she said. Maya moved through the room with calm dignity, while guests spoke around her, as though she were invisible. Then a silver-haired donor named Margaret Hale laughed when Eleanor briefly forgot where she had placed her glasses. Perhaps someone your age should stop attending public events, Margaret said. Several guests smiled awkwardly. Vanessa remained silent. Maya set down the tray. Forgetting a pair of glasses does not erase a lifetime of wisdom, she said. The room went still. Margaret looked offended. And who are you? Maya met her gaze. Someone who knows respect should not depend on age, clothing, or a last name. Eleanor's expression softened. Ethan could not look away. For the first time, he understood why his mother trusted Maya so completely. She was not fearless. She simply refused to let fear make her cruel. Later, Ethan found Maya alone on the terrace. He thanked her for defending Eleanor again. Maya told him she had done what anyone should have done. "Most people do not," he replied. For a moment, the distance between them disappeared. Then voices drifted through the open office door nearby. Daniel Price was warning Ethan that hiring Maya could look like an attempt to manage the Brooks family before the accident records became public. Maya stopped breathing. She heard Ethan say her name, but not the rest. The warmth left her face. Before he could reach her, Vanessa appeared with a sealed folder in her hand. "You deserve to know why this family suddenly wants you close," she whispered. Maya opened the file and saw her parents' names beneath the Whitmore Industries logo. Maya stared at the file until the room seemed to lose all sound. Her parents' names were printed beside dates, legal notices, and internal warnings that had never reached her family. When Ethan stepped onto the terrace, he saw the folder in her hands and stopped. "Maya, let me explain." She looked at him with disbelief. "How long have you known?" Ethan hesitated, and that single pause answered her. "Since the hospital," he admitted. Her face tightened. "You stood beside my brother's bed. You offered money. You gave me a job, all while hiding this. I was trying to understand what happened. No. You were deciding how much truth I could handle." Eleanor approached, but Maya raised one hand. She was not angry with her. The hurt belonged to Ethan. He explained that an old Whitmore subsidiary had ignored safety reports before the accident, and that company attorneys later pressured Maya's relatives into accepting a private settlement. His father had approved the decision. Ethan had not known until 2 days earlier, but he had still chosen silence. Maya removed her employee badge and placed it on the terrace table. "You were right about one thing," she said. "People always expect something. Your family expected my trust without giving me the truth." She left the estate before Ethan could stop her. The next morning, Daniel warned Ethan that releasing the records could cost thousands of jobs, trigger lawsuits, and remove him from the company. Ethan looked through the office windows at Atlanta below. For the first time, his power felt less like an empire and more like a wall built from other people's pain. Across town, Maya returned to the hospital after Jordan's condition worsened. The specialist recommended surgery within days. The estimated cost was far beyond anything she could earn. That evening, Vanessa appeared in the waiting room wearing a cream-colored coat and carrying a legal envelope. She offered to cover every medical expense if Maya signed a confidentiality agreement, resigned from Eleanor's employment, and promised never to contact Ethan again. Maya read the terms, then placed the papers back in Vanessa's hands. "My brother's life is not a price you can use to buy my silence." Vanessa's smile vanished. Hours later, a hospital administrator told Maya that Jordan's surgery had been paid in full by an anonymous donor. Maya immediately assumed Ethan had ignored her wishes again. She called him and accused him of trying to control her with money. Ethan sounded genuinely confused. "Maya, I did not pay it." Before she could respond, another call came through from the Whitmore estate. Eleanor was missing, and the security cameras showed her leaving alone before sunrise. Maya did not need the security footage to guess where Eleanor had gone. She remembered the way the older woman had looked back at the ivory room on the night they met, as if humiliation had left an unfinished sentence inside her. Maya called Ethan and told him to meet her there. Then she asked a nurse to stay with Jordan and rushed through the morning traffic. The restaurant had not opened yet, but the front doors were unlocked. Inside, Eleanor stood near the same table where Brenda had mocked her days earlier. Her gray coat was buttoned neatly, and her hands rested on the handle of her purse. She looked smaller than Maya remembered. Eleanor, Maya said gently. The older woman turned, relief crossing her face. I needed to come back. Maya moved closer. Why did you leave without telling anyone? Eleanor looked toward the empty dining room. Vanessa said Ethan was losing everything because of me. She said I had become confused, difficult, and embarrassing. I thought perhaps she was right. Maya took her hand. You are not a burden. Before Eleanor could answer, Brenda emerged from the office with Vanessa behind her. Vanessa wore a calm expression, but her eyes were cold. She claimed Eleanor was no longer capable of making safe decisions, and said the family needed proof before transferring control of her assets. Maya immediately understood. This was not concern. It was a plan. You brought her here, Vanessa said, pointing at Maya. You wanted witnesses to think she trusts you. Maya stepped between them and Eleanor. She came here because you made her feel ashamed of needing help. Brenda called the police and announced that a valuable family bracelet was missing. Vanessa pretended to search the room, then asked Maya to empty her purse. Maya refused. 2 officers arrived minutes later. In front of everyone, Brenda reached into Maya's coat pocket and produced Eleanor's bracelet. Silence fell. Maya stared at it in disbelief. That is not mine. Vanessa gave the officers a sorrowful look. She has been manipulating Eleanor since the beginning. Eleanor protested, but her words were dismissed as confusion. Maya kept her voice calm as the officers asked her to come with them for questioning. Eleanor, listen to me, she said. You did nothing wrong. Just as Maya was escorted toward the door, Ethan entered with Daniel and 2 members of the Whitmore security team. He saw the bracelet, Vanessa's expression, and Maya standing beside the officers. For one terrible second, nobody moved. Then Ethan looked at Maya and said, I believe you. But Maya's eyes were filled with pain. You believed me too late. The doors closed behind her, and Ethan turned toward Vanessa with a look she had never seen before. Ethan did not argue with Vanessa. He simply asked Daniel to preserve every security recording from the restaurant, the estate, and the street outside. Then he went directly to the police station and arranged for Maya's release while his legal team examined the evidence. By sunrise, the truth had begun to surface. A camera near the restaurant entrance showed Brenda placing something inside Maya's coat moments before the officers arrived. Another recording captured Vanessa meeting Brenda in the parking garage the night before. Daniel also uncovered payments from Vanessa to the private investigator who had obtained the Brooks family records. Ethan watched every file in silence. The woman he had once planned to marry had tried to destroy Maya, shame his mother, and bury the truth about his family. He could have handled everything privately. Instead, he scheduled a public news conference at Whitmore Industries headquarters. Reporters filled the glass atrium. Board members stood behind Ethan, expecting him to protect the company. Vanessa arrived wearing a composed smile, certain he would choose the empire over one former waitress. Maya came only because Eleanor asked her to stand beside her. She remained near the back, tired and guarded, with no expectation of justice. Ethan stepped to the microphone. First, he played the footage proving that Brenda had planted the bracelet. Then, he presented the financial records connecting Vanessa to the plan. Gasps moved through the room. Vanessa tried to interrupt, but Ethan continued. He revealed the sealed report about the highway accident that had taken Maya's parents and admitted that Whitmore Industries had helped conceal the company's responsibility. His father's name appeared on the final authorization. The board chairman whispered for Ethan to stop. He did not. My family protected its reputation by denying another family the truth, he said. I repeated that mistake when I delayed telling Maya what I knew. He announced that all records would be released to investigators, that a compensation fund would be established for every affected family, and that he was resigning as chief executive officer until an independent review was completed. Reporters shouted questions. The company's stock price began falling on screens across the room. Ethan ignored them. He looked directly at Maya. She defended my mother when she believed my mother had nothing. Today, I will defend her, even if it costs me everything. Vanessa's confidence disappeared. Police officers escorted her and Brenda away for further questioning as Eleanor took Maya's hand. The room waited for Maya to respond. Ethan stepped toward her, but she quietly shook her head. Telling the truth was the right thing, she said. It doesn't erase that you hid it. Then she turned, walked through the crowd, and left Ethan standing beneath the Whitmore name as the empire around him began to fall. 3 months passed before Ethan stood outside Maya's apartment again. This time, there was no black sedan, no security team, and no expensive coat. He arrived alone in a simple button-down shirt, carrying nothing but an envelope and an apology he had practiced 100 times. Jordan had completed his surgery successfully and was recovering well. Eleanor had admitted that she was the anonymous donor, explaining that she had paid the hospital directly because she wanted to help without placing Maya under Ethan's control. Maya had accepted Eleanor's kindness, but she had not accepted Ethan back into her life. When she opened the door, she studied him in silence. "I am not here to ask you to forgive me," Ethan said. "I came to show you what I have done with the truth." Inside the envelope were documents confirming that the compensation fund was active. The old victims had been contacted, and an independent board now controlled the investigation. Ethan had sold several personal properties to support the fund after losing his position at Whitmore Industries. He had also turned over every remaining record connected to the accident. Maya read each page carefully. "You lost your company," she said. Ethan shook his head. "I lost a title. The people my family hurt lost years they can never recover." He did not ask to come inside. He left quietly and returned to the work he had begun. Over the next several months, Maya watched from a distance as Ethan met with grieving families, listened without defending himself, and rebuilt his life around responsibility instead of reputation. He never used Jordan's treatment as leverage. He never sent gifts. He simply kept his promises. Slowly, Maya allowed him back into her world, first for coffee, then for dinner with Jordan and Eleanor. Trust returned in small pieces, earned through consistency rather than grand gestures. 1 year later, Eleanor walked into the ivory room wearing the same gray coat from the night everything changed. The restaurant had new management, and every guest was welcomed with dignity. Maya entered beside Ethan, not as a waitress and not as a woman rescued by wealth. She was now the director of the Eleanor Whitmore Center, an organization that protected older adults from neglect and helped struggling families access medical care. Jordan, healthy and smiling, waited near the entrance. Eleanor looked around the room, then took Maya's hand. "The first night you defended me, you believed I had nothing," she said. "That was when you proved what kind of person you were." Ethan looked at Maya, but he did not speak for her. He waited. Maya smiled and reached for his hand. She had not chosen a billionaire. She had chosen a man who finally understood that love meant standing beside the truth, even when the truth took everything away.